So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to dive into really how do you deliver after you have closed the sale in today's theme of running through the finish line. It's going to be a powerful interview with Joe Nicassio. This dude is a legend in terms of marketing, in terms of sales, and giving you the fundamentals for your business. So stick around. And I'm talking to you because you're becoming your greatest possible self. However, I can support you in continuing that journey. Let's explore, let's discover, let's play, let's have a lot of fun because we are becoming our greatest possible selves. Highly recommend you stay tuned to the 12-hour marathon and the podcast. Connect with these guests like Joe. See how you can continue your journey with them and keep growing, keep becoming your greatest possible self. Okay, I appreciate you being here. Next up is the iTunes review of the week. This week it's by Anthony A. 93. Chris the Man Burns. Every podcast episode gets better and better. Not only that, you can tell how present and interested Chris is in each of the experts he brings on his show. Anthony, I super appreciate you. Thank you for giving us that review. And if you want to give a review for us for becoming your greatest possible self and get a chance to get shouted out on a future 12-hour live stream, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes or search Greatest Possible Self on the Apple Podcast Store, and you can give us a review there. While you're there, subscribe so you can get all the latest episodes and updates and stay in the loop of becoming your greatest possible self. Keep plugged in. That's the biggest piece of wisdom that I've gotten on my journey is stay plugged into the sources of inspiration and empowerment like this conversation that we're about to have with Joe. So speaking of that conversation, you definitely want to grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, be ready to take notes. He's always giving diagrams and just instructions on how you can conceptualize this and really take it and like fly with it, soar with it, so you can really apply it and have it make a difference for you, especially if you're the type of person who wants to amp up the results that you provide for your clients. So stick around all the way through to the end because I know even one of these golden nuggets that Joe's about to share has the power to change so much in your business, has the power to change everything, your business, your finances, your freedom, etc. So stick around. Let's introduce Joe and then we'll bring him on because our next guest, Joe, he is absolutely unique and there are many products that tell you how to start your own business. But Joe Nicassio doesn't just tell you how. He mentors you step by step through the process and guarantees you will get the results at the cash register. How do I know? Because I hired Joe and he helped me create my first business. The things I learned from Joe was fundamental, and they were fundamental precursors to how I show up today, my current business successes today. So if you need more than a coach, if you're looking for a mentor who can connect the dots for you and hold your hand along the way to success, you'll definitely want Joe as your mentor, as your coach who can help you get there. So Joe Nicassio, are you ready to rock the house, my man?
Woo! Let's raise up the energy.
I love it, man. Amped up right off the bat, and I love your background, man. It's beautiful. I see some tiki, I see some outdoors. I love the spaciousness. I know the nomad lifestyle has been something that's like really opened up a lot for you in these recent years to experience and explore and see the world. So I love that you're just living it every day, man. I think we all want that freedom and to be able to do what we want when we want.
Yeah, it's fun having freedom. I'm at a client's house. He's turned this house into really an oasis. And, he recently had his YouTube channel cut off and I'm down here and we're doing a complete reinvention of his business. We are looking at we're looking at his this is the work I love to do is like, let's turn this thing upside down. Let's look at every possibility and rewire this business for success. Boom. And so this is exciting stuff.
I love it. Well, you're just getting started with that, man. But I know you have some kind of finish line in mind, in sight with that, and that's the theme of today: running through the finish line. So, Joe, we just want to get your perspective on that. What does that mean for you, man?
Well, first of all, there is no finish line. I mean, a finish line is, the thing is to keep in process and realize that, for me, it's just, I want to impact people in a really positive way. I'm somebody that's been around the personal development industry for a long, long time. And I've seen a lot of people make a lot of promises and a lot of people don't keep those promises. And I don't want to be one of those guys. So for me, my aspiration is to really get a reputation as somebody who is the real deal and who is somebody that sees things through to completion. And I want to have that reputation that I am somebody that gets people results. And so to me, you hit the finish line. Okay, now where do we go from here? There's like
Mm,
every ending is a new beginning, and it's you need to keep into the process and keep moving towards that bigger picture. So
yeah. I think I hear in terms of life, there's no finish line. That's the perspective that you take. Always be developing yourself, always be growing, always be climbing the next mountain, and to never feel like we've made it, right? Because once you feel that, like that point of completion, like, oh, there's no more work to be done, that's when the decay happens. That's when the civilization's heads get so big and then they fall because they rest on what had gotten them to success in the first place.
well, let me fry your brains and everybody else's brains a little bit more. We think about getting to the finish line, and is the finish line death? No, I mean,
Mm,
I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we believe in eternal life. And so, eternal perspective doesn't allow you to even have room for a finish line.
mm,
I remember I sat down with a bishop and I said, "How do we know there's life after death?" And he's like, he shocked me. He's like, "We don't know." He says, but if there is, and you live your life that right way, you can live eternally. And if there isn't an even if there isn't one, if you lived your life as if there was,
mm,
wouldn't you live a higher quality of life?
definitely.
And so I think eternal perspective
Mm.
wipes out the whole concept of finish line.
Wow. Powerful. Powerful, man. I love it. I love it. This is great, Joe. So, for everyone who's just connecting with you, why don't you share a little bit more about what your clients come to you for, what you really stand for these days?
People come to me to help build a better business. Whatever level we're at, we want to get to the next level, and whatever level we're at, um, uh, there are limitations. The place where I'm staying here is Eric Von Sydow, and he says every level has a new devil.
Mm,
And so no matter what level you're at, you want to get to a new level. And so I help people build a better business if you're in an existing business, but I also help you build a better business if you're starting from scratch. And the whole idea is to help you get it done and get it done right. And I just did some conversation around, is having a mentor a luxury or a necessity?
mm,
And it's not a necessity, because you're not going to keel over and die if you don't hire a mentor.
mm,
But we know that like 80 or 90% of businesses can fail if they don't do it the right way. And so, if you want to make sure that your business succeeds, I think a mentor can help stack the odds in your favor. So that's who I am. That's what I'm about. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
I love it. I love it, man. So you've definitely been on a journey to get to this point, but I want to talk about what along your journey had you care so much about delivery after the sale. Tell us, like, what points really influenced that point, that perspective on your coaching, on your mentorship. Tell us about that, man.
Well, we buy a product or service, and then after we buy the product or service, we're disappointed.
Mm,
Somebody ships us a box of stuff, or they say get on these calls, and the problem still remains. And there's a story about, once upon a time, a man was in purgatory, and he had a choice to go to heaven or hell. And so they showed two brochures, and the first brochure was heaven. There's people like on clouds, and they're eating grapes, and they're harps. And then the other brochure, it's like, you know, naked women and sex everywhere and drinking. And the guy looks at the brochure and he goes, "I think I'm going to go to hell." So he goes to hell, and it's fire and brimstone and pain and suffering. And he goes to the devil, like, "This isn't what was in the brochure." And he goes, "Oh, that was just the marketing." And I don't want to be like that. That the promise given is the promise delivered.
yeah, yeah.
And so so I got some notes here about after the sale. And in business, as entrepreneurs, we want to get the sale. We work so hard. You sent me a message the other day that you got your first person for the Bali retreat.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
like, congratulations, first of all. And what a lot of people would do when we work so hard to get the sale, and then a fool and his a fool and his money will soon be parting.
Mm,
So it's like, oh, you get that money, and next thing you know, it's like you're buying toys, and you're not
hmm.
even taking care of the customer.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and yet, then we have these other experiences. Like when I made a bunch of money and I lost everything, and I put like everything I had on a credit card to go to a Jay Abraham seminar. I
Hmm.
put, you know, the next day, this box, old and amazing material showed up, and so like I made the purchase, and it's like all this amazing stuff came flying my way. That commitment, that decision to buy, was backed up by just a huge delivery. With in marketing we call it the thud factor. You deliver all this amazing stuff, and it blows people away.
Mm.
And so we've had this experience where we spend money, and then it's like this um, disenchanting experience. And then we have this experience where you spend money, and it's like people just like massively deliver, and it feels good when people deliver on their promises.
Yeah. Man, so I'm hearing on your journey you had experiences, especially with like Jay Abraham and someone who had a reputation. They promised something and then they delivered on that. That felt good, and you felt like you were taken care of. You felt like, man, I trust in this ecosystem, in this marketplace. Like I trust that there's good people out there. And then there's other experiences that aren't so great, and people don't deliver on what they promise, and that gives people a bad taste in their mouth. And I think the challenge is a lot of people are learning about business. They're learning how do I promise effectively and deliver effectively. And I think a lot of people can be living in scarcity and fear, and they're trying to promise the world because that's what they think it takes to be able to acquire clients. And then, like you said, on the back end, they're not delivering as effectively as they could. So what can they be adjusting or fixing or putting into place, Joe, on the back end to really deliver effectively?
Well, I think before we talk about the back end, on the front end, it's like you need to be careful what you promise. You need to
Mm,
set the buying criteria. Here's how we do business. And you want to manage expectations.
mm.
These people that are saying, buy my course and you'll be a millionaire in 12 months or 6 months. It's like, really? Oh, it's that easy. Okay. Go. So we need to manage expectations and keep it real. I'm the fast track to 5 figures.
Mhm.
I'm not the fast track to 6 or 7 or 8 figures, because everybody wants the $1 million business, but I'm the guy that helps you set up the strong foundation and the strong fundamentals so that
Mm,
eventually you can get there. And you can make a million on hustle. I did it, and it all crashed and burned, and it wasn't pretty. So
mm,
the first thing is like, whatever you're promising, um, keep it realistic, so that temper the expectations, so that people know that you're coming from a very real space. And then after the sale, one of the things you and I have in common is we both were Toastmasters.
mhm.
And I remember once there was a guy from South Africa, a very prestigious man, very wealthy, a guy named Henny Lemmer, from South Africa. And I asked, he was very successful, and I asked him words: deliver these, deliver the goodies.
Mm,
And so, I think the first step is to deliver the goodies. Um, uh, by the way, I said a fool and his money will soon be parting. There's also one of the mistakes people make is this: a fool and his money will soon be partying.
mm.
How many
Yep.
times do we see the sales rep goes out, they work hard, they get the sale, and the next thing you know, they're out binging on alcohol or something, and they haven't taken care of the customer. So,
Mm. Well, I think
uh,
I think there's that, and I think a challenge today is the feast famine cycle of sales and business, where someone will get a big sale and then they'll party, and then they'll stop doing those daily actions, consistent actions that filled the pipeline and serviced the prospects in the first place.
yeah, yeah. Uh, it's we work so hard, now we finally get a sale, and so now we're just completely serving the client, and we're not nurturing the pipeline.
Yeah.
But I want to make a note on this.
Sure.
You shouldn't make the money and go partying, but you should make the money and celebrate.
Yes.
You have worked hard. You built a business, you designed a product, you designed your marketing, you talked to hundreds of people, you finally closed the sale. One of the things I'm constantly telling people is, don't celebrate too soon. Somebody
Mm.
says, "Hey, I'm going to buy from you." I'm like, "Woo, I made a sale," and then the money never comes, and then
Mm.
I get depressed, and it kind of sucks. So, uh, um, like when the money finally comes through, when the deal finally comes through, you need to say, you know what? Yes, I
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah.
You need that little oomph, that little, because we don't have enough celebration anyway, and
Amen.
so we shouldn't celebrate falsely, and so don't cheat yourself.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing is once you close the sale, you want to have a process. You want to onboard people. Like you want to bring them up to speed really fast. If you have deliverables, send that welcome letter out. Send like, here are some resources you can plug into right away.
Hmm.
Here are some things that can get you up to speed really fast. So that's one of the things I think you need to do is plug them into resources, onboard them, plug them into a process that connects with them, we're sending emails, we're marketing to people, we're trying to close the sale, and then they buy, and then all of a sudden communication stops.
Mm.
What's the first thing that's going to happen to somebody who experiences that? Oh, he just wanted me for my money.
Mm.
So once the sale happens, now it's like, now we start the party. The So one of the things we want to do is show some excitement. I'm
Mm.
excited to get started with you. I'm excited that I can make a difference for you in your life, and also show some gratitude. I'm grateful for the opportunity to make a
Mhm.
difference in your life and in your business.
That's good.
Uh, um, and so we want to communicate post sale. These are and also we need to treat them differently.
Mm.
You know, the and you can you personally experience this, Joe. Well, not so much, but Joe pre-sale is different than Joe post-sale,
Right.
because like when we closed the sale and you made a decision to work with me, it's like, now it's time to roll up our sleeves, it's time to pour it on. And a lot of people don't see that, because before the sale they're indecisive, but I can only give so much to people who haven't paid me.
Mm.
But once club, you are going to get treated different. You are going to get the special treatment. And so I think it's just important to, when the sale, we think that we call it closing the sale,
Mhm.
and really what we're doing is opening the relationship.
Yep.
A great metaphor for this is in martial arts.
Mm.
I've trained in martial arts for a long time. I need to take my black belt test. I'm not a black belt yet. I'm like almost a black belt, but it doesn't count, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm not. Um, but the meaning of black belt is your true training has just started.
Mm.
Okay, in sales, closing the sale means your real work has just begun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now's the time to turn up the heat.
So this is you just shared a bunch of gold, man. I want to recap that about celebrating. I think at the end, when the deal finally closes, that was super important. Like, to really celebrate ourselves, to just sit in that for a couple minutes and just like say, hey, I have more than enough time to just let this soak in, let this sink in, and give yourself a hug or pat yourself on the back, or just stay in this gratitude of thank you, thank you, thank you, thank your higher power, thank the universe, thank the everything lined up. Just
Thank
really
the
stay in it.
client.
Yeah, thank the client, and that's what I was going to say too, because there's celebration of the end. Thank the client for trusting you, that kind of thing. I also know that you said don't celebrate too much early, which I agree with. And I also think we can celebrate effort. We can say, hey, I got up there, I made the pitch, I made the offer. Now it's in the client or the prospect's court to decide. They know what they're getting themselves into. Great job, Chris, for getting another at bat. Right. And I think that's important to celebrate, and not only celebrate when the results happen. And that's the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Fixed mindset is like, when I'm smart enough, when victory happens, that's when I celebrate. And growth mindset is when I give effort, that's when I celebrate too. But definitely when the sale closes, that's the more important one to our bottom line, to our success. And I also want to go to the onboarding, having people have what is your procedure for people coming into your business, becoming a client? What resources, what structure is there? I know, like, most people
How do you
probably,
roll out the red carpet?
yeah, roll out the red carpet. And so I think some really tactical stuff is like at certain points when, like, let's say after a person has paid you the money, after that's like day zero. That's day zero that someone has signed up with you as a client. They pay you the money, maybe they sign an agreement or a contract. What do you do then? What is your process for rolling out the red carpet? Is it sending them a bag of candy? Is it sending them a video, a customized video saying thank you for choosing to invest in me? Sending them a voice message? Does that look like for you? Maybe it's making some introductions for them. Maybe you have a great network and you want to connect them with other great people. Maybe it's bringing them into your Facebook group and making a custom welcome post for that. Whatever that is for you, you get to decide what is the process. Okay, so that's day zero, for example. What's your day 2? What's your day 4? What's your day 7? Every day that goes by, you have another opportunity to give them a resource to really stand out in their mind, showing them that you care.
Yeah, yeah, it's huge. One of the things I do is, you can send a thank you letter, and thank you letters are great. I'm a big fan of,
Mhm.
thank you, I appreciate you. But one of the things Jay Abraham pointed out is this idea of a lot of people have what's called post-purchase dissonance,
Mm.
or buyer's remorse. They spend the money and then they go home and tell their mom, "I just spent $5,000 with Joe, or spent $5,000 with Chris."
Mhm.
It's like, and then your mom's going to say, "Well, what?" This is the Yo Mama marketing test, by the way. What do you get for your money, Chris?
Mm.
Explain it. And if you really do a good job of explaining it to your mama, she'll say, "Oh, that's great. You need that. That'll help you."
Yeah.
But if you don't do a good job of explaining it to your mom's gonna say, "What kind of fool child did I raise?" What are you doing spending your money? Wait, so now you're feeling bad about this purchase. And
Wow.
so post-purchase dissonance and buyer's remorse are very real things that people have to deal with. And so the way that you overcome that is what's called post-purchase reassurance.
Mm.
So instead of sending a thank you letter, it's like, "Chris Burns, congratulations on your wise decision to come to our Bali retreat.
Mhm.
We're excited to have you come there, and this is going to be one of the best. This is one of the best decisions you've ever made. Here are some of the exciting things that you have to look forward to, and you're going to
Mm.
find an attachment of the things that you need to bring to make sure that you have the best time possible. Here's some videos we've prepared. Here's some resources. Here's our Zoom link for the pre-Bali trip call." So
Mhm.
you give them resources and you make them feel good and smart about making that decision. And so that post-purchase reassurance letter and welcome letter is gold in terms of locking people in and having them feel good about the experience.
Wow, dude, that's so powerful. So I hear that there's a lot of different things that we could do, like psychologically, what would we want to experience? We would want to feel like we're safe, we're in good hands. How can we communicate that? How can we communicate that with a letter, with an email, with resources, things like that? That's something that a lot of people are falling short on. What about just delivering the products and services that we promise? Is there anything about that you feel some entrepreneurs might be falling short on, Joe?
Yeah, like in the Jay Abraham example I gave,
Mhm.
bonus materials were delivered. Well, they weren't really, but like delivering things above and beyond. Like, as you know, Chris, I sell employee escape plan because you try and put in, I have so much knowledge and resource and library and resources at my fingertips. It's like, how do you put it into the sales letter? But one of the things that happens is when we start working together, it's like, "Oh, Chris, you need something that wasn't in the letter. Let me pull that out of my library and send that to
Mm,
you here." And so bonusing in things that weren't even described in the original process
yeah.
makes people feel like, okay, this guy's not just giving me what he promised, he's giving me more than what I promised. um, and so, yeah, bonusing people in, going the extra mile. I used to sell Apple Macintosh computers at Sun Computers, a retail store before they had Apple stores
Mm,
back in the day.
wow.
Well, why should I buy from your little store and buy from you versus buy from this big company like, CompUSA or whatever, one of the big computer stores? And I said, here's my personal pager, and I'm going to give you my personal pager number. If you ever have a problem, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you have permission to reach out to me. Don't call me at 3 in the morning if you don't have to. and I will give you the answers, and if I don't have the answers, I will do the extra research and make sure. I want you to know I'm here for you, to stand by you and make sure that you know I'm here for you. So when I work with a client, I always give them my cell phone number and say, I'm often on coaching calls, so you can't really call me when I'm in the middle of a coaching call, but you can text message me and let me know what's going on,
Yeah.
and then we can connect when that time availability shows up.
Mm.
So just being there for people and giving people a little bit of personal access. Now that's not always, if you have 10,000 customers that are paying you money, and have a scheduling system. You can give, like, I know, I think James Mellenchek gives, like, oh shit coupons, like oh shit calls. Like, it's like, if you're ever in that situation and your world's falling apart, you're saying, oh shit, here's my, you're given like 2 oh shit calls where you can call me.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes I'm getting ready to go on stage and somebody will call me and do that. So I think also it's important to have help protocols.
Mm.
We make the purchase, and then we're like, okay, now I received the welcome letter. We need to know, what if I do need help? Here's how you do it. One of the things I do, in addition to the welcome letter with the post-purchase reassurance, is I use a guarantee of problem resolution. So as a separate letter, hey, this is Joe. I have a special guarantee, but I need your help in making this guarantee real.
Mm.
If at any time you have, if they don't solve the problem, reach out to me, and I'm going to make it right. And if for some reason you feel like the staff didn't make it right, or I didn't make it right, I'm going to give you a free gift certificate for a dinner and a movie or something.
Mm.
So what you're doing is saying, I guarantee that if you have a problem, I'm going to resolve it, but I need your help. If you have that problem, you can't be quiet about that problem. You need to speak up about that problem and let me know, so I have a chance to fix it.
Yeah.
And I guarantee whatever problem you have, we're going to work on fixing it, but you got to communicate that to me. I have some statistics here. Only 4% of dissatisfied customers will ever complain or communicate their dissatisfaction with you.
Wow.
Instead, 96% won't voice the complaints, and 91% will just never come back to you.
Mm.
So I think it was Tom Hopkins' 311 rule. If you do a good job, people will tell 3 people about it. If you do a bad job, people will tell 11 people about it.
Wow.
So those numbers are really working against you if you don't do it right. So
Mm-hmm.
have help protocols. Communicate. Here's who I am. Here's the way that I can help you. Here's our way of making sure problems get solved.
Yeah.
I think those are important. And it's good to have some kind of customer service process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you're creating the invitation, the open space, the expectation, the communication that I'm here for you. And people have to speak up to be able to do that. Like, we're not mind readers. So I think that just checking in periodically is great as well. Like, having some kind of review process saying, hey, how was this last month of coaching? How was this last month of service for you? Were you completely satisfied? Were you, mildly satisfied? Were you just satisfied or even dissatisfied? And let us know what worked or what didn't work. And I think just whether it's through email communication, sending them a survey, or just at the end of a call or something like that, or a quick text message, something. I think that just having that in our process is super important, man.
I do that at the end of every coaching session. This is really actually a ninja technique, but what was most valuable about our coaching session today, or what was most useful about our coaching session today?
Yeah.
That does a bunch of things. First of all, it helps you find out what was valuable.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's really good for them to verbalize that there was value, because that helps them ratify their experience and reinforce that there really was value here. Also, it gives them an opportunity to say, well, this was super valuable, but I still have some, let's give them a space to ask questions, get further clarification. But I think what's really even more important than that is when they walk away, they had a great coaching session, they say this is what was most valuable, then they walk away and they talk to their friends, like, I really had this valuable coaching session with Joe today, or I had this really valuable coaching session with Chris today.
Yeah.
And so it's just really important that not only we deliver the value, but we make sure we ratify that that value is there, because value isn't just what we put out; it's what's perceived in the eyes and the ears and the mind of the person that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And so you can give a ton of value, but if it's not perceived, it's almost like that value doesn't exist. So you want to make sure that not only are you putting out the value, but it's being received and that it can be mirrored back to you, so that you know that, like with the ecology, that it actually got through.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing as well is some people might even go so fast trying to deliver so much value that it doesn't even have the chance to sink in, and like checking in with the client. Hey, does that resonate? How does that feel for you? Does that make sense? Is that like, what are you hearing in what I'm sharing, especially for coaching, to just check in with people and have them affirm what they have gotten, because sometimes we can say, hey, we have so much value to give and we have so little time to do it and got more than enough to give. Like, how can we get it all across? But I think what's even more valuable is giving the core distinctions, the things that will make the biggest difference, and making sure that they own it, that they got it, and how they're going to implement it, what difference it will make in their life and in their business.
Yeah, and a large part of value isn't just like the intellectual understanding. A large part of value is, like, the greatest compliment is, oh, that is not the greatest compliment is not, this was a great coaching session. The greatest compliment is, Joe, I put into action what you did.
Yeah.
That's a higher compliment than, this was a great coaching session. So one of the things that you can do is, at the end of a coaching session is, do you know, does it make sense to you? Do you know what to do? Like, is your assignment clear? Do you know what to do? Do you know how to do it? And when are you going to get started? When are you going to get started is when the rubber meets the road. And so if I teach stuff and if they don't get started on it, it's not as valuable as if I teach stuff and it gets implemented. So that's a huge piece.
This is great. This is great, man. I love it. And if anyone has any questions for Joe, if you're watching this on the live or replay or listening to the podcast, definitely connect with him. Send him a message. He's like always so open and available. And how you're experiencing Joe right now on the podcast is how he is off the podcast as well in his life. He's constantly being of service and wanting people to grow in their business and make a bigger impact. You're just a massive giver, Joe. So I really, really encourage everyone who's tuning in right now to reach out and connect with you. And if they have any challenges specifically, you're like a master freaking problem solver, or like world's greatest marketing problem solving expert. Like you're just amazing, man. So I appreciate you. And let's keep going, man. I want to talk about being able to consistently deliver over the long term. I think that might be a problem where people are running into is, I could do it up front and I could do it for, a couple times or a couple clients, but then kind of just the systems, the processes, life gets in the way and people don't keep up that consistency. What's your recommendation around that, man?
Have a system. Systems create consistency. Too many people, I think, we sell stuff and we can get people a result, but when it comes to delivering, we wing it. And so, I take you from zero to cash flow in 90 days, or from cash flow to better cash flow in 90 days. Well, it's broken into a system. Do what you love, share the love, receive the love. Okay, but those are broken into, choosing your business wisely, and building a brand, and having a business model that makes sense, and then coming up with an irresistible offer, and then storytelling. So even on storytelling, I could break that into like 3 or 4 different modules. And so when you've got a system and you've got, and when you start, you want to have what's called a minimum viable offer.
Okay.
In other words, you need to sell enough that you're giving enough value that people want to buy from you, and then you need to deliver that value. But as the years go by and you start developing more content, what happens is your body of grow.
Yeah.
One of the things I use is I have a member area, and I add videos and trainings to that member area. So there's this idea called coach-o-matic, almost like a jukebox. So, if we're on a coaching call and then something comes up and it's like, Joe, how do I tell my story? And I say, well, story themes are really important. I've put together a video on story themes that's 30 minutes long, and it's in the member area. And so instead of taking 30 minutes on this coaching call, I just refer them to a link, and I save a bunch of time, but I'm still delivering a ton of value. So over the years, when you got, 50, 75, 100, 150, 200 resources, you can pull into the bag of tricks. There's all kinds of extra things that you can do to continue to serve up the value. And by making it systematic like that, if I'm doing that storytelling module, I don't have to you and 30 minutes with them and 30 minutes. I'll burn out just doing the same content over and over again.
Right.
So say, look, but then you come up with a problem that isn't in the library. Then we do coaching around that, and we record it. And now I can put that in the library because that never came up before, but now it's there. So you want to create almost like a jukebox of content that helps solve the problem of the whole overall context. And I think that's the main thing is we need to remember what is it that we're selling in terms of the promise and making sure that we deliver on the promise. And there's there's many roads to the top of the mountain, but the view is always the same. The most important thing for me is if somebody hires me to go from 0 to cash flow in 90 days or 0 to cash flow in 6 months, the most important thing is at the end of 6 months, they've got their product defined and they're actually selling it and their cash register's ringing. And it's like, this stuff is actually working. And then there's just this operating philosophy of being a massive contribution. This is the one, like, okay, we've closed the sale. It's not the finish. It's now the beginning. We've closed the sale. Now my job is to show up as a massive contribution and make sure that I fulfill and you receive the promise of the program. And I'm not here to dip my toes in the water. I'm here to make waves. I'm going to rattle your world, and I'm going to make sure you get that outcome and those shifts and those changes and those transformations and those breakthroughs. Because why would you hire me if I can't help you get those results? It's like, I wouldn't feel good about it and you wouldn't feel good about it. And to me, like it's great to make money and that's important. It's great to have an impact. But I think one of the things that's really most important to me is having that reputation. I love it. People say, Joe, like, you speak the truth. Joe, you're the real deal. Joe, I tried your stuff and it works. Like developing a reputation of being the real deal in a world of a lot of charlatans and phonies it's very refreshing. And it's like, that's what I'm all about, because I've spent a lot of money on stuff that didn't work, and you spent a lot of money on stuff that didn't work. I'm assuming, if you're like most people. And so I think that's one of the reasons why a guy like Jay Abraham has like this phenomenal reputation. He has a reputation of delivering the goodies, it's, you go in and do a 2-hour consultation with Jay Abraham, and you walk out with a banker's box full of like recordings of like massive brainstorms and masterminds and think tank. It's like, whoa, it's just like pretty mind blowing. So be that massive contribution. Don't really own the fact that, okay, you hired me, let's bring it on. It's time to turn up the heat. It's time to now it's time to make this shit happen.
Yeah, but I also hear that Jay Abraham had so many decades of business problem solving, and that's really what he's able to serve people with. And I think he's always had a really strong work ethic. I know I think I remember hearing that he was juggling multiple different jobs and entrepreneurial ventures early on because he had to provide for his family and stuff. And so I think that's awesome. And for people who are just getting started and they're like, hey, I don't have this content library. It's just start with one step at a time, like one problem at a time. And then also I think I see you giving away like massive value on all your videos and the content that you put out as well. I'm curious on your thoughts of putting out that gold. Should people put out their best stuff? How do they communicate the program and the value and be able to do that in content these days?
even though I put out great content in like my free Facebook lives and all that stuff, people don't implement.
Mm.
Yeah, so
Mm.
it's like, I'm giving them the best stuff, and that, but because they're not invested.
Yeah.
See, when you pay attention. And you're watching all this free stuff, and you're gathering free stuff from Grant Cardone, and you're gathering free stuff from Gary Vaynerchuk, and you're gathering all this free stuff. And I have a metaphor for this. Imagine, Chris Burns goes to an exotic or a sports car trade show,
Mm-hmm.
and you go by the Ferrari booth, and they give you a brand new Ferrari engine block. Okay, and then you go by the Porsche booth, and they give you brand new Porsche pistons. And you go by the Mercedes booth, and they give you a burn injector, and you go by, and at the end of the day, you have all the parts, but your engine doesn't work because the pieces don't all fit together. So you can give away gold nuggets all day, but each piece has value. But when you have all the pieces are designed to work together into a system, you're not just receiving the content, but when you receive the full context, that's the most valuable part. And so when you pay attention, and when you give freely of your, Taki Moore, one of my coaches, says, when you give freely of your information, you've earned the right to charge a premium for implementation.
That's good.
So, people are watching my free videos, and they're getting a lot of value from it, but if, like, the reason people hire me is to increase their implementation velocity. When you're ready to get out of the theory realm and get into the action realm, that's when you hire me. The people that hire me are the ones that are ready to take action. I want to help everybody, but I say everybody doesn't want to be helped. I think most people do want help, but they're afraid of making an investment. They're afraid of investing in stuff that doesn't work because they've spent money on stuff that didn't. So they have this skepticism and these doubts and these, like all this hesitancy. There's no real commitment.
It's the willingness. It's the willingness to take those next steps and to trust that they're enough, to trust that the person that they're attracted to, like yourself, Joe, like that you're enough. I think that there's a lot of barriers that people put in front of themselves psychologically in wanting to grow into their greatest possible selves. And so it's the reward versus the cost. And I think one of the big challenges today for online marketers, entrepreneurs in general, is being able to lower that cost enough or raise the value enough and reward enough so that they're willing to take action.
Yeah. And yeah, how do you lower the risk? What are you going to do to take action? I think one of the things is there is a do-it-yourself mentality. Well, I'll just get all this free information and I'll do it myself. How's that working for you? I did a lot of stuff on do-it-yourself, but when I got help from the masters, like everything went. Here's how it went. It's like I'm doing it myself, right? This is what it looks like. Okay, and then I got help from the masters, and it went like this, right? And so, when we commit to the process, when we realize, see, level one entrepreneurship, and there's a lot of struggle in level one entrepreneurship, is if it is to me, it's up to me. In order to do things right, you got to do it yourself. Level two entrepreneurship is my success depends on the support of others. I'm telling you right now, if I didn't have a mentor like Jay Abraham, I wouldn't be where I am today. If I didn't have a mentor like Taki Moore, I wouldn't be where I am today. If Chris didn't have a mentor like Joe Nicassio, he wouldn't be where he is today, because I was an important stepping stone for you to get where you are right now. Because I remember where you were. You had a job. You didn't like it. You were taking a lot of entrepreneur training, but you weren't implementing. And then I said, well, let's change that. You hired me, and we put you into action. And so go ahead, do it on your own if you want to take that kind of risk. Maybe only 1% of the people will actually make an investment in hiring a mentor. when I was helping people that were doing 500,000 a year and they wanted to go to 5 million, they didn't have a problem spending 8 grand to hire a coach or a mentor.
Right.
But when you're dealing with startups, they have a job, they're only making 30 or 40 grand a year, they're struggling, for them to pay money to get help, it scares them. But the ones that make the commitment and make, I think one of the things that alienates people from coaching is they do hire people and they have a bad experience because somebody took their money, and then after they finished closing the sale, they didn't deliver on it. But there are some of us that after you close the sale, it's time for us to turn up the heat and make sure that you get the result. And so if we've had a lot of bad experiences hiring people that didn't deliver, we're going to have a hesitancy about doing that in the future. But and ultimately at the end of the day, when somebody buys from us and when we deliver and we show up as that massive contribution and we make a real difference, what we're really doing is cultivating advocates. We're cultivating raving fans.
The dog behind you agrees, Joe.
Roscoe, shut up.
I love it. Yeah, I agree, man. Creating those loyal people in your community, and I think it goes with the energy of being a massive contribution. It goes with the energy and the intention and the being of, really going the extra mile for people. Like, how can I just wow this experience? And I think even asking people, like, what would it be like at the end of working together that your mind is totally blown? What would that result be like? And so they paint a picture. Allow them to paint that picture so that we can leverage their language, their creation of it, and tap into that and remind them, hey, this is what we are going for. And at whatever level is ethical for you as a provider to promise that or something close to that, or say, hey, we'll get as close as we can. Here's the process. Here's what I can promise, kind of thing. I think that's a really powerful way to connect people with what they want and help them get there.
I remember it was an event with Peter Anthony. And he, at one point, he was like the highest paid hair stylist in the country, or maybe even in the world. I think he made like 8 or 10 grand just cutting hair himself in a day. Like, that was just crazy kind of money. And one of the things he would do, I remember he said in this seminar, is when people sit down in the chair, what needs to happen today for you to walk away with an amazing experience? Like, so even before the sale happens, like, what needs to happen? What needs to happen for you to have an amazing experience what needs to happen for you to have an amazing experience when you hire Burn It Up Coaching? What needs to happen for you to have an amazing experience when you hire Joe to be your sales and marketing and business coach? And the clients will tell us what they need to have happen, and sometimes what they want to happen may be beyond like what we can promise, and so we need to kind of manage those expectations. But at the end of the day, when we show up as that massive contribution, we do cultivate advocates and we cultivate raving fans. And I like the word cultivate. It reminds me of oysters and pearls. And an oyster is this living organism in the sea, and if an oyster does its job properly, it cultivates. When you crack it open, there's a pearl inside. But it's impossible to have that oyster without that little grain of sand irritant. And that's my job as your coach. I'm that grain of sand irritant that's going to irritate you into becoming a pearl and producing the value and the goal within yourself.
Well, it's so important. I think it's essential to have people around us who see bigger possibilities for us than we see in ourselves. Because if someone knew themselves as someone who could make 5 figures in starting their business, or 6 figures, or have time and money freedom, whatever it is that's their dream, if they knew themselves as that kind of person, then chances are they would have it. Right? They would be like unstoppable. They would be resourceful, and everything that was in the way of that identity would be removed, because the identity says, this is who I am. So to be able to get to that level really takes a coach or a mentor, someone speaking life into our dreams, saying, this is possible. Here's how you do it. Here's the practical way of how you do it. Here's how you shift your mindset and shift who you see yourself as to be able to accomplish that. And it's essential for us to surround ourselves with people like that. And I think that's been one of the greatest gifts that I've received along my journey, is surrounding myself with people like yourself, Joe, early on. And, just being willing to invest and get into those higher level circles, the inner circle, the people who are like so serious, they're willing to invest 5 or 10 grand into growing themselves to become their greatest possible self. And I just like said from the very beginning, I'm willing to play at that level and I'll figure it out. And I think that kind of resourcefulness and whatever it takes really served me massively very early on.
Yeah, and that oyster will not produce a pearl without a little bit of irritation.
Yeah.
So if you want to be comfortable and produce no fruit, go ahead. But a coach, a mentor, somebody that's going to call you out on your stuff, is going to be a little irritating in times, but they're going to working. We need to you need to think a little different here, and that change can be uncomfortable. Yep. That's why change, if you want to go from apathy to enthusiasm, that's a big range, right? Yes. And apathy is like being asleep, and enthusiasm is being like wide awake. Yeah. In order to go from apathy, like if you have somebody that's wide asleep, they're sleeping, they're completely asleep, yeah. and you come along and say, let's get enthusiastic. Sometimes the path from apathy to enthusiasm there can actually be a little hostility in there.
Anger.
Straight up anger. So if you want to take somebody that's completely asleep and you want to wake them up, there might be a little bit of disruption going on, but that is where the growth occurs. That's where the pearls and the fruit and the rewards and the magic and the riches are actually produced, is getting a little and get into a little uncomfortableness, because that uncomfortableness is the roots of growth and change and prosperity.
Yeah. So good, man. So we've covered a lot in this interview, Joe. I want to wrap it up, bring home some final takeaways for our audience. What do you have to share, man?
Look, you're in business. You're selling things. You're out there making a difference in people's lives. And when the sale happens, when you close the sale, it's not the end. That's when your true work begins. This is when you get to show up as a massive contribution and make a difference in people's lives. And so we spend all this time trying to get the sale. Now the sale occurred. This is where you actually should be investing your best time in, because these are the people that deserve, the people that pay you deserve raise their hand. They are different. There's a whole crowd of people that don't buy. Then somebody raises their hand, they get out their wallet, they pay you money. So the measure of wealth is not how much you receive in terms of the money, but it's how much you give and share and serve and contribute. And there's a giving and sharing and contribution that happens before the sale. But now that you've given me the money, now it's time to turn it on, turn up the volume to really deliver in a massive way, so that people say, this amount that I paid Joe, or this amount I paid Chris, or whoever's watching, this amount that you were paid is so small compared to how much they gave to me. This is what gives you raving fans. This is what builds you a reputation. A lot of people are worried, it's like I got bad reputation. People say bad things about me. Well, that's the way that you overcome that is don't give them you only give them so much good stuff to say about you. There's no room. Yeah. So if you are in business or contemplating in business, and your business has a certain level and you want to get to the next level, you want to build a better business, you can do it on your own. But if you want help, you can reach out. And my website's employeeescapeplan.com. And there's a schedule link at the top of the webpage. And I just invite you to reach out. It doesn't cost anything to at least have a conversation to see where you are and what you're trying to create. And schedule an appointment with me. Let's have a conversation. And here's a promise I make to people. How much does Employee Escape Plan cost? Absolutely nothing if it's not right for you. I don't want your money if I can't help you.
Right.
I'm here to help people and make, that's my legacy, is touching lives and helping people be better. isn't about me. It's really about the lives that I've touched and made better as a result of walking this planet.
Yeah.
And so you can do it on your own. If you want help, here I am.
Yes,
You're invited.
you are here, Joe, and I love this. I also want to go back to the call and how you mentioned, there's not much of a cost in terms of having a call with you, and I want to put a caveat, however you say it, to that, saying, hey, your time is valuable. You're listening to this, you're watching this right now, so thank you for honoring us with your time, and we know we're making a massive contribution for you. If you're listening to this, like, you've stuck around, you've gotten tons of value and wisdom on how do you deliver after the sale. And I want to talk about having a one-on-one call and the difference that makes. I think so many people are afraid to just even get on a call. And so I really want to present you to what is the cost of not getting on the call. What's the cost of not getting a spotlight on what is the biggest pain point, the biggest thing that is not working in your business, in your life, from an expert like Joe? What's the cost of not getting like that value, that aha? The cost is in 6 months, 12 months, you'll still be struggling. You'll still be trying to figure it out. What's the missing link? So you owe it to yourself and the people who are counting on you, your family, your community, potential clients and prospects, and the people that you get to serve with your love and your gifts. You owe it to yourself to get unblocked, unstuck, and to find out what is your next step. What are the solutions for you? Just jumping on a call doesn't mean you have to take those next steps, but chances are Joe's going to deliver a gold nugget, a solution, a spotlight on what has been stopping you from achieving the results that you want. And at that point, you get to say, okay, here are my options. Which one's the best for me? You get to make an educated, empowered decision. And I've always loved being empowered in my decisions. I have the full ability to say yes to something, because when I do, I'll figure out a way, I'll get massive value, my life will transform. I also have the full ability to say no to something. If I'm not resonating with it, if I'm not aligned with it, if it's just not the right time, I have the power to say no, and I think a lot of people are afraid of saying no. So own your power to say yes or say no, but just remember, staying on the fence, you'll get splinters. So get off the fence and say yes or no, whichever way is right for you. But just definitely contact Joe, employeeescapeplan.com. Shoot him a message on Facebook, schedule a call, and have your life really open up in terms of what's possible and what you can be taking more action on. So, Joe, I appreciate you, man. I love the support you've given me along the journey, how much of a difference it's made in my business, the resources, the people that you've introduced me to, the structures, the fundamentals, the processes of figuring out what are my passions, what's my genius, what are my gifts, and how do I apply those, man. So, for 4.5 years or something like that, I've been working with you and brainstorming with you and growing with you. So I just really appreciate you being in my life and that constant presence of empowerment and strategy and being a mentor towards me, being a advisor towards me to be my greatest possible self, man. Really appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, and I'm really proud. Watching you on this marathon every week, you wouldn't be there without me. Like watching Chris Burns blossom, he came to me when he was a little seed, and I've seen you sprout, I've seen you grow, I've seen you blossom, and I'm so proud and pleased and grateful that I've had the chance to touch your life to help you, blossom and go to a whole other level.
I think we may have been disconnected. I think that is a perfect point of completion. Joe, we love you. Go to www.employeeescapeplan.com. Check out Joe and keep growing into your greatest possible self. Thanks for tuning in.